Today we're going to talk about the two faces of sexism. One is the obvious, openly hostile kind, but the other one, it actually seems kind of nice. We're going to unpack the really surprising connection to attitudes about violence against women, and it's all based on a massive scientific review that pulls together decades of research.
So, where are we getting all this? Well, the basis for this explainer is a huge meta-analysis from the journal Sexuality and Culture. Think of it as a study of studies. These researchers took the findings from 141 different reports, spanning over a quarter century, to get a super clear, really reliable picture of how these sexist beliefs actually work in the real world.
You see, the whole idea here is that modern sexism isn't just one simple thing. The theory of ambivalent sexism actually splits it into two completely different but, and this is key, deeply connected sides.
Okay, let's look at this. On one hand, you have a statement like, women seek to gain power by getting control over men. That's pretty obviously hostile, right? But then you have, women should be cherished and protected by men. That sounds positive, almost chivalrous. The big question is it actually harmless? And that's exactly what this research wanted to figure out.
So first up, you've got hostile sexism. This is the one we can all spot a mile away. It's that overt, openly negative belief that women are somehow inferior or maybe a threat to men's power. Researchers call this the stick, the thing used to keep people in line and enforce that old patriarchal order.
But then you've got its partner in crime, benevolent sexism. And this one is way, way more subtle. It seems like a positive, protective attitude, like it's putting women on a pedestal. But here's the catch. That pedestal is only there for women who fit into very specific, very traditional roles. This is what researchers call the carrot, a little reward for conforming.
So how do these two belief systems, the stick and the carrot, actually play out in the real world? Well, that's what this massive research effort was all about.
And the scale here is just massive. By combining the results from 141 different studies with data from nearly 100,000 people, the researchers could finally cut through all the noise and find some really clear, really powerful patterns.
So the core question they were asking was this: is there a real, measurable link between holding these beliefs, both the nasty stick and the seemingly nice carrot, and also holding attitudes that excuse or even tolerate violence against women?
So, what did they find? Well, when you put all that data together, the answer was incredibly clear.
Okay, so no surprise here. Hostile sexism has a really clear and pretty strong link to pro-violence attitudes. The more someone believes that hostile stuff, the more likely they are to tolerate violence. Expected, right? But here's the kicker. Benevolent sexism also has a connection. It's smaller, sure, but it's undeniable. And this is the proof. It is absolutely not harmless.
But that's not even the most shocking part. The data held an even bigger and, frankly, more troubling surprise. One that shows exactly why this so-called benevolent sexism is so insidious, especially for women.
Which leads you to wonder, right? Does this seemingly nice sexism actually affect everybody the same way, men and women?
And here it is, the most startling discovery of the whole analysis. The connection between benevolent sexism and tolerating violence? It exists for both men and women. But that connection is significantly stronger for women. Just think about that. When women themselves endorse these seemingly positive, protective beliefs, it's tied even more closely to also having attitudes that tolerate violence.
So why on earth would that be? Well, it all goes back to that carrot and stick idea. Benevolent sexism is the reward, the carrot, that's offered to women to get them to accept the system. By sort of leaning into these traditional roles, they might hope to avoid the stick of hostile sexism that punishes anyone who steps out of line. It's basically a system of social control that's disguised as kindness and protection.
And this isn't just some abstract psychological theory, These attitudes have really dangerous, real-world consequences that literally shape how our entire society deals with violence.
Think about it. These beliefs can influence a police officer to maybe not take a domestic violence call as seriously. They can sway a jury to start blaming a victim in an assault case. These attitudes literally determine whether a friend or a bystander on the street decides to step in and help or just looks away.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Benevolent sexism is not the opposite of hostile sexism. No way. It's its quiet, sneaky partner. It does the same work of holding up a system of inequality, but it does it with a smile instead of a fist. And that just might make the whole thing even harder to tear down.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? What other beliefs that we all hold, things that seem positive or just plain harmless on the surface, might actually be quietly doing some real damage?